Yesterday was Tisha B'Av, the ninth day of Av, the end of a period which we refer to in the Jewish calendar as the Netzarim, the period of constriction, where we are invited to dig deeply into our pain, into our fear, into our sense of disconnectedness. We're invited to do that so that we can learn to face it with compassion. From that place of compassion, feel compassion for others, for those near us, far away from us, even for those who do not know, who may even can have considered our. So we are now past that dramatic day of the culmination of digging deep into that pain and constriction, and we're entering now that period of 6 weeks of nechemta, of consolation, that will lead us to Rosh Hashanah and a new year. And we're grateful for that. And one of the ways we do that, one of the things we learn from the experience of Tisha B'Av, is to dig into that compassion and into our chesed, our deep sense of loving kindness, which connects all to each other. And our Torah portion for this week, the one that always falls after Tisha B'Av, Ba'et Hanan, also recognizes this fact. It is in this Torah portion that we have not only a reiteration of the Ten Commandments, but we hear for the first time the words of the Shema, paragraph V'ahavta. We're told to listen, to hear, to feel connected to the one God, and then immediately after V'ahavta, and you shall love that. Our response should be love, can be love, is capable of. So the practice that I'm going to invite you into for a few minutes is a practice around the Shema. I'm going to focus on the word Shema itself, bringing it into its individual 3 letters, Shin, Mem, and Ayin, and meditatively saying each one of those letters on an extended and elongated out breath. Here's the intention that I'm going to suggest that you have when we do that. For the Shin, we can think of the Sh as that eternal, universal sound of comfort that a parent gives a child, that we hear in our own hearts, that returns us to shalom. As in shalom. The mem, the sound, feel the humming when we say the with our lips, and think of that humming as the hum of chayut, of life, that vibrates throughout all of created life. Mountains, the rivers, created animals and plants, through you and the finally the ayin, say Shema, allowing that guttural ayin to be a remembrance of God's first impulse towards speech, out of which creation occurs. You can also think of the as that awareness of amazement that is always with us whenever we think of that first moment of creation. So we're going to say each letter of the Shema on an elongated out breath 3 times, after which we will then say the entire verse, Shema Yisrael, each word on its own elongated. Just doing that once. And at that point, I'm going to share with you a few words from my dear teacher, Sheila Peltz Weinberg, her own interpretation of the words of the V'ahavta, and then we'll spend the rest of time in silence. So I'm going to invite you now to find a place in your seat where you're comfortable, alert, and relaxed, where you're aware of your posture. Feel the feet grounded into the earth. You notice your back, you're sitting in a chair, feeling the support of the chair against the back, noticing the weight of your thighs and your bottom being pulled into the chair by sinking into this place of relaxed awareness. Bringing attention to the breath. It's neshama that connects us to all living things, to all life, to the source of life. Now turning our attention, as I suggested, to the word Shema, its 3 individual syllables. beginning with an in-breath, leading into a long shh on an that with each of the three letters and cycle it 3 times. Beginning on an in-breath. Shh. Breath. Ah, one more time. In breath. Shh. Mm. Ah, now I invite you to join me in the words of the Shema, each word on an elongated out breath, beginning on an in breath. Shema Israel. Adonai. Eloheinu. Adonai. Echad. Returning to the breath. V'ahavta. Love this moment. This is the unity of all that is ever unfolding. Love, receive, allow, rest. Soften just to be in this moment with your beating heart, your soul breath, your life force. Keep receiving care, deepening in care, extending care in words and in deeds, no exceptions. Then you will be able to teach others to love in the houses you live in, on the journeys you take, when you rest, and when you are most alert. Keep finding signs to remind you, wake you up, signs that bind you to each other, signs that guide you back. Continue in silence for the next few minutes. Love this moment. This is the unity of all that is ever unfolding. Love, receive, allow, rest, soften. Just be in this moment with your beating heart, your soul breath, your life force. Keep receiving care, deepening in care, extending in care, in words and deeds, no exceptions. Then you will be able to teach others to love in the houses you live in, on the journeys you take, rest, and when you are most alert. Keep finding signs to remind you, wake you up, signs that bind you to each other, signs that guide you back. So I invite you to return your attention back to the group. And Andrew, I think you're going to put the Wonders Kaddish up for us. Those who are mourning, observing yard site, thinking about somebody you love, please join me in the words of the Wonders Kaddish. Yit Gadal, the Yit Gadash, Rabbi, the Alma Dibra Yute, Yamich Makute, V'chayechon Yomechon, Chaye Beit Israel, Agalam Bizman Kari,
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Olam Olam
Amaya.
Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitromam, Yitnaseh, Yitgadar, Yitalel, Yitalal, Shnei Dekudsha, Richu, Le'ela, Mikol, Rechata, Ushirata, Shustachata, V'nechmata, Da'aviran, Yalma,
Amen.
Yehi Shlama, Baba, Shemaya, Chayim, Israel, Amen.
Amen.
Shalom B'Ramav, Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, Yoshvei Todel. Amen.
Amen.
So thank you all for joining us today. And before we close, we'll share again in the chat box the link to the website, where if you're able to, you can make a donation. And those of you who would like to stay on for a few more minutes to talk about just your experience of the meditation, or any questions you might have about it, please feel free, and I will take questions in the chat. Shout out hi to Andy, who just spent 4 days on a retreat with me last week in Phoenix, New Jersey. Nice to see you. Chat and see. So there are no questions. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm wondering if day after Tisha B'Av, if you felt, what was the difference in the quality of your heart during meditation? You know, before and after. Has been there a shift for you with the conclusion of that part of the season as we move on to the next? Anyone would like to say something? Feel free to unmute. I think you can unmute.
Sorry, they cannot unmute.
They cannot.
But they're asking questions in the chat.
Right?
Are you able to see the chat? A lot of people want to know about the poem that you read, the name, and where to find it.
There we go. Absolutely. There we are. Yeah. Now I'm in the right place. So what I was reading from was a beautiful interpretation of the Via Hafta written by my teacher and friend, Rabbi Sheila Peltz Weinberg, and it is from her book, let us all breathe together. It's like this, let us all breathe together. And it's really a beautiful, and I recommend it. It's beautiful, beautiful meditative readings in it and other things. Beautiful fiction. Yeah. So what else? So Susan says, I found the meditation practice of focusing on the sounds of the letters, Shema, incredibly soothing, grounding. Yeah, that's a practice I learned a long time ago from Rabbi Jeff Roth. I just found it such an interesting way, a powerful way to actually ground sounds of the word body by actually feeling. And each one of those syllables has a very distinct feel in your mouth, the sh, the vibrating the ah. Each one feels so different that I just find it's an incredibly powerful way to dig that in. Lester writes, I find Tisha B'Av hard to connect to. I find it hard to mourn from the temple and sacrifice. And Yom Shoah has been profound, has a more profound sense of mourning. Tisha B'Av seems to feel a recast. We're still here. Yeah, I understand that. I don't. Most years, I look around and I see the state of Israel is just flourishing and wonderful and a miracle in our time, and I wonder why we need Tisha B'Av. Then I remember that there is this whole spiritual underlay of Tisha B'Av, which has to do with connecting into the possibility of deep mourning as a wellspring out of which we can connect to deep compassion and deep love. So that's why I stick with it. I don't always fast all day. It's not Yom Kippur for me, but it is. I have found a renewed interest in it over the years. This year, of course, I think the horrific effects that we're living through right now have caused many of us to rethink Tisha B'Av, to see an unfortunate and frightening immediacy in it that we might not have felt in the last few years. It's this year's a reminder that what we take for granted with such blessing, the recreation of the Jewish state in our time, in our century, nothing's to be taken. And in fact, that's part of the nature of everything in our lives and in all of existence. Nothing should be taken for granted. Can be taken for granted. And that's for me another aspect of Tisha B'Av, the fact that it can all go. Everything at any moment can go, and we're asked to dig into compassion. The rabbis teach it very important about Tisha B'Av. They say that of all the things you could think of as sins, the worst thing that our ancestors in the days of the Second Temple did to deserve this destruction, to bring this destruction upon themselves, was sinat hinam, baseless hatred. And the rabbis, there's a beautiful teaching from Rav Kook, who says, even if we bring the whole world down upon us, even if it's all destroyed, we will rebuild it, and we will build ourselves through ahavat chinam, through baseless love. And I think if Tisha B'Av can teach us that, then it's something worth keeping in our toolbox of our spiritual toolbox throughout the holiday year. Yeah. And Julie writes, hi, Julie. After the sadness of yesterday, I appreciate the focus on love today. I think it's so important. Tisha B'Av has to call these days the days of comfort. You have to go there. It begs us. It calls us into a place of love. Lester writes, I was at the wall the first Tisha B'Av after the 6-day war. Wow. The first time we were there in 2 centuries. That must have been awesome. Wow. Wow. And Pauline writes, I thought today's practice revitalized a very prayer. Well, I think that's kind of the goal of spiritual practice for us, certainly is for me, to figure out how we can take very, very familiar prayers and not let them become rote, and how we can find a new layer that touches our heart in our bodies in ways that we might have forgotten or not have known. So thank you for that. And Deborah says, please say the quote from Rav Kook. You know, I don't have the Hebrew in front of me. Actually, I might have it. Wow, isn't that funny? Hold on a second. I didn't think this, but the Rav Kook quote, it's from the Or HaKodesh, and he says, if we were destroyed and the world was destroyed together with us through causeless hatred, we will rebuild it, and the entire world will be rebuilt through causeless love. Ah, that's an amazing teaching, you know. And if I used to think, why did the rabbis pick Sinat Hinam as the thing to focus on, and saying, you know, why the Jews brought this upon themselves in the Second Temple? Of all the things they could have said, why Sinat Hinam? And I've come to realize it's actually a very deep teaching. It's a very deep teaching. And that the purpose of Tisha B'Av is actually to bring us in this deep, horrible, awful place so that we can end up in a place of compassion leading to chesed, leading to ahavat chinam, to boundless love. Dee says, what about righteous anger that is important as a means of self-protection and survival, struggling with the balance of feeling rage as a means of protection that also verges on hate, that people would want to hurt me and hurt others? So this is really a good thing. You know, righteous anger, I guess there's a place for righteous anger. It's definitely a place for righteous anger. It's chesed, but there's also gvura. There's a time when we need to find that, you know, that gird ourselves with an anger to face what needs to be faced. But I think we always have to be careful that it be held back by the chesed, which underpins everything. The flow of loving kindness actually is the source of gvura, of might and strength and boundaries, and, you know, all of that. Chesed underlies all of that. So I feel like it's too easy for us to give in. It's very easy for us to give, for righteous anger lead into to lead into something, for me, that feels very constricting. And so the purpose of for me of our spiritual practices, always keep the heart open, even when we know there's a place for righteous anger, even when we know that exists and it needs to exist, that it not close us up. And without our spiritual practices, always the anger will close us up. Yeah. So any other comments or questions? Seeing when someone is coming from is a way to see them with love and know that their actions and hurtful actions have nothing to do with us. Yeah, I think that's really true. If we're able to see, you know, it sometimes the person who's angering us and even attacking us, because we know them, we can still really love them and be sad about what they're going through and not let their anger hurt us. And then Dee goes back, this is so important, but what if we have to close up, stay safe? You know, then I think it's like that rabbi, I can't remember which one in the Talmud, who needed to enter the cave with the sun for years in order, because the Romans were after him, right? Sometimes we need to do that. We need to cave ourselves up. But when he got out, he needed to learn compassion all over again. So we need to know, we need to be able to say, maybe we say to ourselves, the closing up, the closing down, the shutting down I'm doing is self-protection, because that's really important and the most immediate thing. But pray that it's only temporary. Pray that it's not always. It's like meditation that teaches us to say, it's like this. Yeah, it's like this. So sometimes it's like this. We need to shut down and guard ourselves because we're just overcome. But that's only now. It's open. Next moment. So maybe that's the answer, is to just not make sure it's not permanent. It's always a game. Yeah, it was Shimon Bar Yochai and his son were in the cave, and it was the father who came out like this. All he saw was everyone doing, he just wanted to kill everybody. He was so frustrated that he needed to relearn chesed, to relearn softness, to relearn letting people be who they are. Yeah. So thank you so much. I think it's about 11 after. We're gonna to close the session, but I want to thank Mark and the team for inviting me to both hold the space for Mark and to speak, share for you all. Blessings.